How you doing there? Welcome back to Babble on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Beis, Daf 92, Masechta Chullin. Friends, Daf 92, we continue with the Agadata, the first Amud, which is much bigger than the second one. We continue with the Agadata from yesterday, starting with Yaakov Avinu. The Agadata that we're going to learn today is a continuation from yesterday's Agadata with Yaakov Avinu, specifically with his struggle with the sorrow shel Esav. After that, we get into a Agadata based on a pasuk regarding the dream of the Saramashkim with Yosef HaTzadik and the Saramashkim in the dungeons of Egypt. The Agadata it's based on a pasuk from the dream of the Saramashkim, of the butler, but it's not specifically about dreams or wine or anything like that, but it's that pasuk is used for several different branches of Agadata. Now, once we get to Tzadi Beis, Amud Beis, we get back into our Mishnah. Agadata is over, and we discussed Gid hanasheh for chickens, followed by the Cheilev of the Gid hanasheh. That is what we have to look forward to on Daf Beis, Daf 92. Very, very exciting how we are moving through Masechta Chullin. We are moving through Masechta Chullin. Friends, come join me. Let's have a great time learning Daf Beis of Masechta Chullin. Friends, we begin on Daf Aleph Amud Beis. We still have a little bit to do on Daf Aleph Amud Beis, about 10 or 15 lines before it gets wide, I would say. In the middle of the line, Vayomer Shalcheni, right? I probably should have checked that out. Shalcheni, right? Yeah. Vayomer Shalcheni ki Allah Shochar. So after one, so Yaakov Avinu and the sorrow shel Esav, they are struggling throughout the night, and then daybreak breaks, and the angel says, Vayomer Shalcheni, send me back, I gotta go, Ki Allah Shachar, because it is light, it's daybreak. Omar Loi, Yaakov Avinu says to the sorrow shel Esav, Ganif ata, what are you, a thief? Oh, kubustus ata, are you a kubustus? What's a kubustus? So Rashi says it's a kidnapper. So are you a thief? Are you a kidnapper? Tosfos disagrees. He says it's a gambler who owes lots of people money. Either way, are you some kind of fugitive who needs to sneak away at night, who is scared of daylight, lest he be caught by somebody who wants to catch him? Shemisyari min hashachar, that you're scared of the morning. Omar Loi, to which the sorrow shel Esav says, Malach ani, Taka, I'm an angel. Umiyom shenivresi, and from the day that I was born, that I was created, lo igia zmani lemashira ad achshav. And from the time that I was created until this very moment, it had not my moment to sing Shira had not yet arrived, and now the moment for me to sing to the Rabbeinu Shalom has arrived, and I must go sing, go croon for the Eibishter. And this supports of Chananel Amarov, Dom of Chananel Amarov, Shalosh Kitos Shal Maloche Hashoris Umosir B'chol Yom, that there are 3 groups of angels that sing, that say Shira before the Rabbeinu Shalom every day. Achas Omeres Kodesh, one group says Kadosh, V'achas Omeres Kadosh, V'achas Omeres Kadosh Hashem Tzvakis Melech La'etz Kvoder. So there are these 3 groups. So the angel says to Yaakov Avinu, I gotta go, it's my time to say Shira. Amazing. Meisvei, however, we have a question on Rav Chananel Amarab, who says that the 3rd group says Kadosh Hashem Tzvakis. So Meisvei, we have a question. Chavivin Yisrael lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yosim Malachi Hasharis. Friends, you hear that? Us Yidden, simple Yidden, we are more beloved to the Rabbeinu Shalom than the Malachi Hasharis. Did you know that? Simple Yidden like us, we are more beloved to the Rabbeinu Shalom than the Malachi Hasharis even. How come? What's the proof? Here's the proof. She'Yisrael omrim shira b'chol shah. That the Yidden can say shira to the Rabbanei Shalom whenever they want. Umalachi Asharis enomim shira elapam achas bayod. Whereas Malachi Asharis, they only can say shira once per day. Some say it's just once per week. Some say it's once per month. Maybe only even just once per year. Some say it's only once per week or once per every 50 years or maybe once forever. I assume the point is that I'm imagining it as referring to a specific angel. Right? So, like, for example, the Sarah Shel Esav, he says, right, from the time I was born until today, it wasn't my time to say Shira. Taisvis says, the end of Taisvis, the bottom Taisvis, at the end, he says, they would only say Shira just once. And this was the time for the Sarah Shel Esav to say his Shira. And as the Brisa says, right, some say that the Malachim only once per day, maybe once per week, maybe once per year. And the last Shita is maybe an angel only has the opportunity to say Shira one time in its entire existence. That's how I'm understanding it. Whereas every Yid, we could sing, say Shira to the Rabbanei Shalom whenever we feel like it. Additionally, Yidden say Shem Hashem after only two preceding words. Shneimar Shema Yisrael Hashem V'gomer. Right? We say Shema Yisrael, and then word number 3 is already Hashem. Umalachi Asharis emazkirin es Hashem el acher gimel tevis. But Malachi Asharis they say kedichsiv Kodesh 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 Hashem Tzvakis. That they only get to the Shem Hashem after having said Kadosh 3 times. So we say Shema Yisrael, word number 3 is already Hashem. Whereas they say Kadosh, 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 and only once they get to word number 4 is when they can introduce Shem Hashem. So that's proof number 2 that the Yidden are more chaviv to the Rabbanei Shalom. And finally, Vein Malachi Asharis Omim Shira Lemaila Ad Yomi Yisrael Lemata. The Malachi Asharis, they only sing their songs above only once the Yidden have said Shira below Shenemar Biron Yachad Koichve Boiker, that when the stars of the morning rejoice Tzazamin. And who are the stars of the morning? Zakt Rashi, Yisrael Ameshulim Lekechavim, the Yidden who are compared to the stars. Right? The Rabbanei Shalom says to Avraham Avinu, Re'es HaKoichavim Tuchal Esporosam. Right? Look at the stars that the Yidden are compared to the stars. So the pasuk, where's this pasuk? A pasuk in Iyov. Biron Yachad Koichve Boiker, that when the stars of the morning are rejoicing Tzazamin, V'hadar V'ayariu Kol Bnei Elokim, that's when the angels say their shira. So 3 reasons why the Yidden are more chaviv to the Eibishter than even the Malachi Asharis. Reason number 1 is that we can give shira whenever we want. Reason number 2 is that we get to Shem Hashem after only 2 words rather than 3 words. And reason number 3 is that the shira of the malachim depends on us singing shira first. Now, what's the question from the Brisa? The question is from the Brisa is that how did Rav Chananel Amarav say that one group of angels says Kaddish, the next group says Kaddish, and then the third group says Kaddish Hashem Tzvakis. If it's Kaddish Hashem Tzvakis, they're saying Shem Hashem at word 2. But we had said that they only get, in the Brisa it says they only get to Shem Hashem at word 4. And for the Gemara, Ela Achas Omer is Kaddish, Ve'achas Omer is Kaddish Kaddish, Ve'achas Omer is, the third group says Kaddish 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 Hashem Tzvakis. So none of the Malachim are saying Hashem before they first said 3 words. Kaddish 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 Hashem. And then they get to Hashem at word number 4. Frag die Gemara, Vayika Baruch. What about Baruch Kvod Hashem in Mekamo? Baruch Kvod Hashem. Hashem is word number 3, not word number 4, just like the Yidden. Shema Yisrael Hashem. Baruch Kvod Hashem. It's word number 3. And for the Gemara, Baruch Eifanim Hu Da'amrilei. And for the Gemara, Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh is the Srofim. Baruch Kvod Hashem Imkomo is the Eifanim B'chayis HaKodesh. And Tosfos says, right, but the Adifa, the Chayis Nami Omim Baruch, the Adifa Misrofim. They're Adif, they're better than Srofim, whatever that means. But so okay. So there's a difference between Srofim and Ufanim B'chayis HaKodesh in that sense. That the Srofim, they could only say Shem Hashem at word 4, but the Ufanim B'chayis HaKodesh could already say Shem Hashem at word 3. Alternatively, V'Bai Yisema came the Isyayiv Rishusa Isyayiv. Alternatively, initially, right, when we say that the Malachim can only say Shem Hashem after 3 words at word 4, but once they say Shem Hashem at word 4, well then they have permission, so to speak, to say Shem Hashem, and then they can even say Baruch Kvod Hashem, where Hashem is the 3rd word. Once already they say Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh Hashem, then they're allowed to say Shem Hashem, and they can even then have it at the 3rd word at that point. Gewaldig. Mamish gewaldig. I'm going to chap a shluck of coffee. We're going to go weiter in just a second. Says the pasuk in, where's this pasuk? Hosea. Vayosser el malach, vayuchal, bocha vayischanen lo. That he struggled with a angel and he prevailed. Bacha vayischanen lo, and he cried and he pleaded with him. Eini yodea mi naise sar lemi. When it says vayosser el malach vayuchal, who was yuchal? Who succeeded? Who is capable? Kishu Omer, when the pasuk says in Chumash, ki sarisa im Elokim v'anoshim v'tuchal, have Omer Yaakov naise sar lemalach, that it's Yaakov Avinu was the officer. He was the victor against the angel. When it says, and he cried and he pleaded, who was crying and pleading? When the angel says, please send me, it was the angel who was crying and pleading to Jacob. Rabba remez romaz lo, that the angel made a reference to Yaakov Avinu, shasidim shnei sarim lotzis mimenu, that there are going to be 2 types of officers that come from the descendants of Jacob. Rosh Gola shebebavul, the Reish Galusa in Babble, the Nasi Sheberetz Yisrael, and the prince, the Nasi, the leader in Eretz Yisrael, Mikan Ramaz Lo, Galus, which is also a remez, an indication that there was going to be exile. The Reish Galusa, the head of the exile, the exilarch, so in exile. Okay, so that was the wrapping up the Agadata from Yaakov Avinu and his trip to Haran and his encounter with the Sarah Shel Esav. Now, more or less, for the rest of the Agadata, it's going to be based on a pasuk in the dream of the butler in the dungeons of Egypt with Yosef HaTzadik. Again, we're not going to be like really discussing his dream so much, but it's based on a pasuk from his dream. Uva gefen shloisha sarigim, that on the grapevine, says the butler, describes the butler to Yosef HaTzadik. There were 3 branches. Rav Chia bar Abba, says Rav Chia bar Abba, Amarav, Elu gimel sare geyim ayotzim mi Yisrael b'chol dor vador. These are the 3 gevirs. Right? What does Rashi say? Ashirim, wealthy individuals, v'krovim l'malchus, and who are close to the kingship, close to the authorities. So Elu gimel sare geyim, these are 3 powerful people, Yidden, hayotzim mi Yisrael b'chol dor vador, three powerful Yidden in every generation. Sometimes there are two in Babble. I imagine that means in Chutz La'aretz, and one in Eretz Yisrael. Sometimes there are two in Eretz Yisrael and one in Chutz La'aretz, in Babble. Yavu Rabbanon Einayu, and in terms of the two that could be in Babel, they looked B'Rabbana Ukva, Rabbana Nechemya, B'nei Barte de Rav. They glanced at Rabbana Ukva and Rabbana Nechemya, the grandchildren of Rav, the sons of the daughter of Rav. Rava Amar says, Rava Elu Shloisha Sarei Goyim Shemelamdim Zchis Al Yisrael B'Chodor Vador. These are the three officers of non-Jewish officers of the nations that are Melamed Zchus, that support the Yidden in every generation. That there are three non-Jewish officers. I don't know what's the word I'm thinking of. I don't know. Officers who support the Yidden in every generation. Tani Rabbi Eliezer Omer, says Rabbi Eliezer, Gefen ze ha'olam, that the grapevine is the world. Shloisha sarigim, the three branches, ze Avram, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, they are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Vehi kifaraches also nitza elo amos. That's a reference to the mothers, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. These are the 12 tribes. Rabbi Yoshua says to Rabbi Eliezer, what, do we show a person in a dream that which already was? This is Yosef HaTzadik. There already was Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. There already was the Arba Emos and the 12 Shvatim. We show to a person what is going to be in the future. And like Gefen zeh Torah. Gefen, the grapevine, is the Holy Torah. Shlosha Sarigim, the three branches, Ela Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. Vehi kifarachas also nitza, Elu Sanhedrin. These are the Sanhedrin of Ivshilu, Eshkelosei Anovim, Elu Hatzadikim Sheb'chodor V'dor. These are the righteous in every generation. Amar Rabbi Gamliel says, we still need the explanation of Rabbi Elazar Hamadoi Demukim Le Kule Bechad Mokim, because Rabbi Elazar Hamadoi establishes everything in one place. Rabbi Elazar Hamadoi Omer says, Rabbi Elazar Hamadoi Gefen Ze Yerushalayim, that the grapevine is a reference to Jerusalem. Shlosha Sarigim Ze Mikdash Melech V'Kohen Gadol, and the three branches are the holy temple, the king, and the high priest. Kifarachas also nitza elu pirchei kuhuna. That's a reference to the priests, to the kohanim who work in the Beis Hamikdash of Shilash Kolosei Anovim elu nesachim. These are the libations in the temple. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi mukim la b'matunis. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says it's talking about gifts that the Rabbanu Shalom gave to the Yidden. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi gefen zo Torah shlosha sarigim ze be'er amud onon v'amon. The three branches are a reference to the Be'er Shemilium, the Amur Anan that Lanchosam Baderech, that traveled with us in the wilderness, Vaman, as well as the man that sustained us during that period. The Kefarachas also Nitza, Ela Bikurim, that's a reference to the Bikurim, that we bring from the first fruits of the land that the Rabbanu Shalom gave us. The fruits in Eretz Yisrael are quite good. You know, my parents were here. They got to experience firsthand what the fruits of Eretz Yisrael are like peak season. I don't know what they're going to do. They went back to Chutz La'aretz this week. I don't know what they're going to do. You can't go back to eating fruits in Chutz La'aretz after you've been to Eretz Yisrael. It's not right. Once you know what a fruit is, the Rabbanu Shalom's fruit in Eretz Yisrael, once you know what that's like, let's go weiter. If Shilu Eshkelosei Anovim Elu Nisachim, these are a reference to the libations. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba says, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, and this is going to be the final drash on this pasuk. Geffen elu Yisrael. Geffen is a reference to the Yidden. V'cheinu omer Geffen mi Mitzrayim tasiyah, that the grapevine from Egypt will be uprooted and moved elsewhere. That's a reference to the Yidden that were taken out of Mitzrayim. Shlosha Sarigim elu Shlosha Regalim. These are the three festivals. She'Yisrael oilim boyen b'chol shana v'shana, that the Yidden go to Eretz Yisrael every year. Go to Eretz Yisrael, to Yerushalayim every year. V'ki farachas. You can skip the next words. Higiyazmanon she'Yisrael lifros v'lirbos. The time has arrived for the Yidden to be fruitful and multiply. V'cheinu omer v'nei Yisrael paru v'yishritzu. Also nitza. Higiyazmanon she'Yisrael ligoel. The time has come for the Yidden to be redeemed. V'cheinu omer v'yez nitzchom al begodai. That the pasuk says in, where is it, in Yeshaya, right? Pasuk says in Yeshaya, describes how the Rabban Shalom was going to take care of Edom, take care of them, not in the take care of them sense, but to take care of them in the take care of them sense. And it says, Vayez nitzchom al begodai, and basically their blood was splattering all over my clothes. V'chol malbusha yagalti, and all my clothes got all ruined with Edom blood. So I think the point is nitzchom is maybe a reference to what was the words there? Also kifarachas also nitza. Right, so nitza I think is maybe a reference to yez nitzchom. And it said right, so Igiyaz Mancho Yisrael Ligor, that the Rabban Shalom is going to take care of Edom and whoever needs to be taken care of, and in the taken care of sense, not in the taken care of sense, in the taken care of sense. Okay. The Evshilu Eshkol say Anovim Higiyaz Manasho Mitzrayim Lishta Iskos Atar Ela, that the time has arrived for Egypt to drink the cup of Tar-Ela. I don't know what that is, but it sounds bad. This is what Rava says, that the three cups, right, in the dream of the butler, it says, wait, where is that cups? I don't know, kos paro, there it is. The kos paro biyadi, v'ekach anavim v'eschot osa el kos paro, but it's a kos, paro. It says kos 3 times. Lama echad sheshosav me Moshe, one kos atar-ela that they drank during the time of Moses, v'echad sheshosav b'mei paro necho, and also another kos atar-ela that they were served during the days of Paro Necho, where Nebuchadnezzar taught them a lesson. V'echad shasida lishtos im kola ovdei kuchavim, and a cup of tar-ela that they are in the future going to drink with the rest of the ovdei kuchavim. Amar lei Reb Abba the Reb Yirmiyah, and says Reb Abba to Reb Yirmiyah bar Abba, ki darish lu Rav lahane kroi, that when Rav would darshan Agadata from these psukim of the Bagefen Shlosha Sarigim, etc., Kavasech Darish Lu, he would explain them like you explain them, like you, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, explain them to be a reference to the Yidden. Chab another shluck of coffee, and we're going to keep moving forward in this Agadata. Amr Reb Shimon ben Lakish, says Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Umazo, the Yidden, Kegefen Nimshala, are compared to a grapevine. Zmoris Shabbat, the branches of the grapevine, Elu Balebatim, they are the Balabatim, the I don't know, maybe let's call it the middle class, I don't know, the workers, the people that are doing. What does Rashi say? Kach Balebatim gom lechesed, the people that do chesed, umachzikim mide'aniyim, and they take care of the poor people. Mafazim mamonim lemalchus b'shvel achem umiskayim al yodam kilu. These are the I don't know how to describe it. The balabatim, the regular people, the good people, the workers, the people who are involved in the community. Eshkolis and the clusters of grapes, Shabbat, Elu Talmidei Chachamim. These are the Torah scholars. Olin Shabbat and the leaves, Elu Amei Haaretz. These are the Amei Haaretz. Rashi describes Kach Amei Haaretz Choshim v'Zorim b'Kotzim Masha Talmidei Chacham ba'Ochlim. They're the ones who are doing the work in the fields, and they're planting, the harvesting, and doing everything that's necessary, and they're providing the food for the Talmidei Chachamim and for everybody. Knuknis Sheba, and the Knuknis, those are the what's the word? I don't remember the word, but those little, on a grapevine, they're the tentacles, I don't know, I don't think they're called tentacles, but that kind of thing, the tentacle-y kind of things. Those are Elu Rekonim should be so. Okay, those are the empty people in Israel. This is what they sent from Eretz Yisrael to Babel. Liboy Rachamim Iskalya al Alya. The Eshkolis, the clusters need to pray. The Talmud Chachamim need to pray for the leaves for the Ami Haaretz. The Ilmalei Alya lo miskaimin Iskalya, because as we said, it's the Ami Haaretz who are working in the fields and providing the food and that the Talmidei Chachamim are dependent on. So the Talmidei Chachamim need to pray that all should be good with the Ami Haaretz, because they are dependent on the Ami Haaretz for their food production. V'ekrea li b'chamisha osir kesef. This is a pasuk in Hosea, I believe, that essentially it's talking about the Gemara darshans from that pasuk. Ve'ekrea li b'chamisha osir kesef. The drasha from there is Rabbi Yochanan Mishum B'Shim ben Yotzadok and Kira Lashon Mechira. Kira means to sell / buy. Shenemar B'Kivri Asher Karisili. That Yaakov Avinu describes, Yosef Atzadik describes the Shvuah of Yaakov Avinu, B'Kivri Asher Karisili, in the grave that I Karisili, and that means to purchase. B'Chamisha Asar Zeh Tezva B'Nisan, that's a reference to the 15th of Nisan, Shebo Nigalu Yisrael, that the Rabbanei Shalom acquired the Yidden on Yetzias Mitzrayim. Shebo Nigalu Yisrael Mitzrayim. Kesef Elu Atzadikim. Kesef is a reference to the righteous people, to the tzaddikim. V'cheinu Omer Tzur Kesef Lokach Biyado. Okay, that's a reference to tzaddikim. It's based on a Gemara in Masechta Sanhedrin. Okay, it's a reference to tzaddikim. Chomer Sa'orim V'lesech Sa'orim. Chomer is essentially a core which is 30 saw. V'lesech Sa'orim. Melesech is half a core, which is 15 saw. Elu Memei Tzaddikim. 30 plus 15 is 45. That's a reference to the 45 righteous people, Sha'olam Iskayim Bohem, that the world exists and continues to exist because of these 45 tzaddikim, which is interesting because usually we think about 36 tzaddikim. It's interesting that here we're talking about 45 tzaddikim. I don't know if 30 of these tzaddikim are in Babel and 15 of them in Eretz Yisrael. Or it's fakert, 30 in Eretz Yisrael and 15 in Babel. When the pasuk in Zechariah describes, and Zechariah says that I took the 30 kesef, and we're saying the 30 kesef is a reference to the 30 tzaddikim. Beretz Yisrael v'tesvav kam, means that the shloshim kesef is a reference to 30 tzaddikim are Beis Hashem, are in Eretz Yisrael, and 15 are in Babel. Amar Abaye, and says Abaye v'Rabuyayu mishtakre b'veknishta, the two say apsa, and most of these tzaddikim are found, I don't know how to translate it exactly, but basically in a very humble place, in the big knishta, in the synagogue, the two say apsa. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's like kind of off to the side, some low place, some very humble. They're in a very humble location. And this is what Zechariah says. It's a little bit confusing to know exactly what it means, but Rashi explains that it's talking to the Ovdei Kochavim. Im tov beinechem havu schari. If it's fine, if it's good in your eyes, give me my sachar, my wages. Ve'im lo chadlu, and if not, don't. Vayishkalu es schari shloshim kesef, and they paid me 30 kesef, which is a reference to the 30 tzaddikim. That's a tricky kind of nevuah there in Zechariah. It's tricky to understand exactly what's going on there. But anyways, it says there that essentially the Umas Ha'olam gave Zechariah 30 kesef, which is a reference to these 30 tzaddikim. Okay. Rav Yehuda Omer says, Rav Yehuda, Elu Shloshim Tzadikei Umas Ha'olam. These are 30. It says Rav Yehuda, it's a reference to 30 righteous of the Umas Ha'olam. Shumas Ha'olam Miskayim Malem, that the Umas Ha'olam exists because of their 30 righteous people. Ula Amar says, Ula Elu Shloshim mitzvahs shekibla aleim b'nei Noach. These are 30 mitzvahs that the b'nei Noach accepted upon themselves. Ve'im mekayim el shlosha. They only actually do 3 of them. Achas, number 1, shein kosvin ksuba l'zcharim. That even though the Umas Olam, the b'nei Noach are unfortunately, right, even though the b'nei Noach, right, they are involved in mishkav zchur, but they don't write ksubas when they're involved in mishkav zchur. Ve'achas she'ein shoklin Besar amez bit makulin, and the other thing is that they, even though they eat, this is crazy. I don't know. Even though they're cannibalistic and they eat other people, I guess some of them, they don't sell that flesh in the markets. They're at least a little bit private about it. And thirdly, that they honor the holy Torah. Okay, fine. Well, and with that we wrap up our run of Agadata that began yesterday with discussions of Yaakov Avinu, or even before that, really, the Gid hanasheh. Anyways, and somehow we got into this whole Agadata based on the pasuk by the butler's dream with Yosef HaTzadik in the dungeons of Egypt, and all sorts of Agadatas about Yidden and Geula and all sorts of stuff. And now we briefly discussed the Gid hanasheh for birds, v'noig b'shlil. No, skipped. Ve'en noig ba'of, that the Gid hanasheh does not apply for birds. V'ka chazina de islay, but they do have a kaf haregel, right? They do have, what does Rashi say? Dislay kaf basar svivos akulis ayona. They do have meat around their thigh bone, right? Anybody who's ever eaten a thigh on a chicken knows that there is meat around the thigh bone. Islay v'lo agil, yeah, but it's not round, right? We need it for the Gid hanasheh shal kaf hayarich. It needs to be around the thigh bone. But Rabbi Yirmiyah islay le'of v'agil. What if you do have a chicken with meat that's around the thigh bone rather than kind of like more flat? Islay lebehema v'lo agil. Or what if you have an animal that doesn't have round, right, the meat that's round around the thigh bone? My basar didya azina, do we go based on that particular chicken or that particular animal? Or basar mina azina, do we go based on chickens in general or cows in general? Teku, it's a tie. Continues the Mishnah, v'noig b'shlil. The sheet of the Chachamim is that Gid hanasheh applies to a shlil as well. That if you have a ben tisha chai, if you shecht a cow, and inside the cow there is a full-term fetus and it is alive, so that fetus will have a Gid hanasheh and you have to remove it. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. He says that there's no Gid hanasheh when it comes to the shlil. You don't have to remove the Gid hanasheh from the shlil. Where am I? Amar Shmuel says Shmuel v'chelba mutter, and Shmuel says, and its Cheilev is mutter l'divrei hakol according to everybody. So the Mishnah had then continued, right? So the Chacham had said v'noig b'shlil. Rabbi Yehuda says it's not noig b'shlil, and then the Mishnah says v'chelba mutter, and its Cheilev is mutter. The shaila is, what does it mean its Cheilev is mutter? Is v'chelba mutter a continuation of the shita of Rabbi Yehuda? Is he saying so? Is it Rabbi Yehuda saying that there's no Gid hanasheh by a shlil, by this fetus, ben tisha chai, and additionally there's no inyan of Cheilev by this fetus either? When it comes to this ben tisha chai, this fetus, there's no din of Gid hanasheh, there's no isur of achilas Cheilev. Is that what it means? Chelba mutter, that it's just a continuation of Rabbi Yehuda's shita? The Chacham say that Gid hanasheh is shaykh by the shlil and that there is Cheilev by the shlil. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees on both accounts. There's no din of Gid hanasheh by the shlil, and there's no din of Cheilev either. Or is it a separate thing? The Mishnah says that according to Chachamim, there is a din Gid hanasheh by the shlil. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's no din Gid hanasheh by the shlil. Okay, done. Next. The chalba mutter, and its Cheilev is mutter. What Cheilev? Okay, let's say the Cheilev of the Gid hanasheh. Any fat around the Gid hanasheh is mutter, and everybody agrees to that. So, how do we understand the Mishnah? So it says Shmuel, Shmuel v'chalba mutter l'divrei hakol. Says Shmuel, everyone agrees that the Cheilev is mutter. Chalba d'mai, which Cheilev is mutter? Ilema de shlil, if we're saying that everyone agrees that the Cheilev of the fetus, of the Ben Tisha Chai, is mutter. But mipalik plige, well, it's a machlokes. Tisan is, we learn in a brayse, noyeg b'shlil, that we learn in a brayse that says the Chachamim that the Gid Hanasheh is shaykh, is noyeg by a fetus. V'chalbo osir. There's a din Gid Hanasheh by a fetus, and Cheilev is also by a fetus. Div Rab Meir, that's the shita of Rab Meir. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees on both counts. Ein noyeg b'shlil. There's no din Gid Hanasheh by a shlil. V'chalbo mutter, and its Cheilev is mutter. So we see, in terms of the shlil, it's dafka the shita of Rabbi Yehuda that the Cheilev is mutter. Rab Meir would disagree, the Chum would disagree, Rab Meir / the Chacham would disagree and say that just like there's a din Gid Hanasheh by a shlil, there's also a din Cheilev. Okay, so when Shmuel says that everyone agrees that the Cheilev is mutter, it's not talking about the shlil. V'amar Belazar, okay, it continues. V'amar Belazar, Amar B'Shai, machlokes b'ben Tisha Chai. That the machlokes is by a ben Tisha Chai, v'al Meir l'shitaso, Reb Yehuda l'shitaso. And Reb Meir, who says that there is a din of Gid Hanasheh by a shlil and a din of Cheilev by a shlil, he's consistent with the shita from Perek Behema Mekashe, that he says that a ben Tisha Chai requires its own shchita. It's its own animal. Requires its own shchita. It has a din Gid Hanasheh, it has a din Cheilev. Rabbi Yehuda, however, said by Bein Ma'amekashe that by slaughtering the mother, the shchita works for the shlil as well. And there's no din shchita, there's no chiyuv shchita by the shlil, and there's no Gid Hanasheh, and there's no din Cheilev either. Okay, fine. So we see it's a machlokes about the Cheilev when it comes to the shlil. Ve'ela chelbo de Gid. Okay, so let's say it's talking about the fat of the Gid Hanasheh, that there's fat around the Gid Hanasheh, and we're saying that everyone agrees that Cheilev, that fat is mutter. Hanami palik plige, but this is also the machlekes. The sign is we learn in a brayse, Gid Hanasheh, that when it comes to Gid Hanasheh mechatet achrav b'chol makom shu, you mamish have to get, right? The Gid Hanasheh starts at the spine, then goes all the way down the leg. Not only does it go all the way down the leg, it branches out. And there's like capillaries of sorts, right? It branches out into these small little branches throughout the meat of the thigh. You have to remove every last branch of the Gid Hanasheh. You have to mamish branch, go after it and remove every last branch. Everywhere it branches off into the meat. And you have to get rid of all of the fat of the Gid Hanasheh. Divrei Meir, that's the shita of Reb Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, Gomimo imashofi, whereas Rabbi Yehuda says, no, any of these knuknin, as they're called, any of these branches and any of the fat that's in the meat, you can leave. Says Rabbi Yehuda, that's fine, you can leave that fat, and you can leave those branches. And the truth is, even the fat that isn't in the meat, but is on top of the meat, is also mutter. But you remove that fat nonetheless, just for marasai, and you don't want anybody to think that maybe it's the Gid Hanasheh they're eating, so you remove that fat. But be'etzem it's mutter. No, so we see that it's a machlokes between Reb Meir, who says that the fat, right, you have to get rid of every last bit of fat of the Gid Hanasheh, according to Reb Meir. According to Reb Yehuda, it's okay, the fat of the Gid Hanasheh. So again, we're struggling to figure out, Shmuel says that the Cheilev is mutter l'divrei hakol, but we see that whether we're talking about the fetus, whether we're talking about the Gid Hanasheh, the Cheilev is a machlokes. Le'olam chelbo de Gid. And for the Gemara, Shmuel's statement is talking about the fat of the Gid Hanasheh. So now how do we understand Reb Meir, who says you have to go after all the fat and get rid of it? Shmuel, who says that everybody agrees that the Cheilev is mutter, Shmuel does nonetheless agree that according to Reb Meir, the Cheilev is of the Gid Hanasheh is osir midrabanan. So when Shmuel says that everyone agrees that the Cheilev of the Gid Hanasheh is mutter, it means midoraisa. That's correct. Rabbi Yehuda and even Reb Meir agree that the Cheilev of the Gid Hanasheh is mutter midoraisa. Only the Gid Hanasheh itself is also midoraisa. The sign that we learned in a brayso, v'shamno mutter v'yisol kedoshim nagu b'uisa, as we learned yesterday, that the fat of the Gid Hanasheh is mutter, but Yisrael Kedoshim, the Yidden are holy, and they make siyagim la Torah. We make guardrails against the Torah. Nagabo Isser, and just like the Gid hanasheh is also, we also treat the fat of the Gid hanasheh as being also as well. My laver Mary, let's assume that who's this Shita in the Brisa, that Mida Oraisa, the fat of the Gid hanasheh is mutter, but the Yidden were stringent upon themselves. Mistam it's Reb Meir. Domer mutter min haTorah, v'asur midrabanan, who is saying that the fat of the Gid hanasheh is mutter midoraisa and is only also midorabanan. Fragdi Gemara, wait, why are you so certain that Brisa is Reb Meir? Dilma Rabbi Yehuda, maybe it's Rabbi Yehuda, and we're saying that even though Rabbi Yehuda says the fat is mutter midoraisa, it's also midorabanan, and Reb Meir says that it's even also midoraisa. Ella, where am I? Maybe Reb Meir says that the Cheilev of the Gid hanasheh is taka also midoraisa. Lo Agadata Disani, because we have another brisa Gid hanasheh mechatet achra b'chol makom shu, that the Gid hanasheh you have to go after every last branch wherever it might be. V'sham no mutter, but the fat is mutter. Interesting shita. This brisa is saying on the one hand, you have to go after the Gid hanasheh in all of its branches. On the other hand, we're saying that the fat is mutter. Manchamislei deislei chatita. Who's the one who says that you have to go after the Gid hanasheh every last branch of it? Reb Meir. V'kam Sham no mutter. And yet, in the Brisa, we're saying that the fat is mutter. So what's going on? So rather, what you have to say is that according to Reb Meir, the fat is mutter mida oraisa. But when we say you have to go, when he says you have to go after the fat as well, that's midorabanan. But midoraisa, everybody agrees that the fat of the Gid hanasheh is mutter, and that's what Shmuel is saying when he says that everybody agrees that the fat is mutter. And friends, we are going to hold it here for Daf Tzadi Beis, because once already we continue, it starts building on each other into the next daf. So we'll end here for Daf Tzadi Beis of Masechta Chullin. And Daf Tzadi Beis of Masechta Chullin, we continued with the Agadata that we began yesterday. That was really a big chunk of today's daf, wrapping up the Agadata with Yaakov Avinu and the Sarah Shel Esav, and then we moved into this Agadata based on a pasuk by the dream of the butler with Yosef HaTzadik in the dungeons of Egypt, but really in a very kind of abstract sense, talking about all sorts of things related to Israel and Geula and all sorts of stuff. We then, after that, discussed briefly the Gid hanasheh for chickens. Of course, there's no din of Gid hanasheh for chickens because they don't have that round, right, cylindrical meat around the thigh bone. And then we discussed the Cheilev of the Gid hanasheh, specifically the Shita of Shmuel, who says that everyone agrees that the Cheilev that the Cheilev is mutter. The question is what Cheilev? We said ultimately it's the Cheilev of the Gid hanasheh. Rabbi Yehuda said it's completely mutter. Reb Meir says that it's also midorabanan because Yisrael Kedoshim Nagu Bo Isser. Friends, that was Daf Tzadi Beis of Masechta Chullin. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great Shabbos. Cheers.